horn of Helm Hammerhand shall sound in the deep.
War is upon us.
Attack!
This is not a battle we can win.
To whom are you pledged?
Death!
When the songs of this day are sung, we will fend!
The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. Rated PG-13. Only in theaters December 13th.
People need help.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Chillporeal. I am your host, Brian, the Nerdporeal life form himself. But for today, I identify as Nerdhirrim of the Poreal mark. And right now, I am hanging with the High King Feanor, the Alpha Chad himself. What's up, buddy? So you and I don't know anyone else that saw War of the Rohirrim except you. I went and saw it just for curiosity because I'll be honest, I mean, I've said this on stream before, but I loved the Peter Jackson films. I am not a fan of the Rings of the Rings of Stupid, as you have coined that name. That will be forever your thing. I was just curious because this was my buddy Salty Traveling Sea, who's in the chat right now. Was the one that first told me about this, and I was kind of curious. It's been 2.5 years since they made the announcement. So, I think this is better than Rings of Power. I think anything is better than Rings of Power except for Wheel of Prime, excuse me. But that's an argument for another day. I'm sure Gavfly in the chat's going to disagree with me. But hey, we got Davish Prime Staff coming in from X, and then he's also on the YouTube side too. And then we got CLS Studio, my young bro, and then we got Admiral Teague. What's up, guys? Thanks for being here. So, hi, King Feanor. How you doing? Sorry for that long introduction.
No worries. I'm doing good. I finally had enough time to cool off. You know, it took me 2 days, but I finally had time to cool off from seeing that. That was a film of all time. That's what that was. That was a experience for me, and it was not a pleasant one.
So there's been a lot of stuff going around online, especially about the fact that the main character is a character that was not in the was not in the appendices. Now they do mention a daughter, and the daughter was supposed to get married, and because of that, there was war with the Dunlendings. So the thing that got people going was that she was a girl boss, that she was best at everything, that she was potentially a Mary Sue. Did you think that this was the case with the character of Hera?
Yeah, I got those vibes, especially when she. So we're going to be kind of jumping around all over the place with this film. But for those who haven't seen it in the chat, there's a scene in this film where she has a crate full of armor that she needs to have picked up by the Eagles. Okay. And she scales an ice cliff in the middle of winter in the freezing cold to ask the Eagles, the ice cliff, to pick up this package and airdrop it Call of Duty style to her cousin. It's so stupid. And she does it, and the bird doesn't eat her. The bird doesn't attack her. The bird doesn't kick her off the cliff. No, the bird understands her. The bird speaks the common tongue. It was so cringe, man.
I thought
And
only like Gandalf and maybe Radagast could speak the language of the Eagles or something. I didn't know. People from Rohan, people of the Mark. Is that what they call them? People of the Mark.
yeah, the Men of the Mark. It's okay. So it's the elves have spoken to the Eagles before, especially in the First Age. But largely the Eagles, they're I don't want to say allegiance. Allegiance is the wrong word. But definitely their main interactions with beings that aren't Eagles are Gandalf and Radagast. And yeah, it was so stupid and non-canonical. And then at the end of it, she's gonna go find Gandalf.
I was in and out of this movie. Like I was paying attention at points, and there was points where I was just like I was more interested in texting. I was either texting you or I was texting Salty or the we have a little chat group chat, so we talk and stuff, and I was kind of talking about that. And a lot of my issues, my biggest issue with this movie, and I noticed you said something, maybe not equivalent, but you said something that kind of was very interesting. So one thing that they did in this movie, and I knew right away what was going to happen. It was so obvious. Like I'm higher than a normie when it comes to Lord of the Rings and everything. I've seen the movie several times. I've read Tolkien maybe twice now. Once a long time ago and once more recent. But I'm not the level of lore master that you are and a bunch of other people on the platform in the sphere. But the thing that I noticed was that they just simply followed a lot of the same beats. This movie followed a lot of the same beats that the Two Towers already did. I knew right away that what was the name of the cousin again? Who you barely see in the movie. You didn't even get to see him.
Freyloth.
I knew right away he was going to be Aemir, and he was going to save the day at the end. And I was like, okay, if he goes down a hill, I'm going to lose it. He rides with his men down a hill. I was just like, God damn it! It
was the same hill.
Yeah,
it was the same hill.
Yeah, I'm like Tolkien when he finds out he can play the bass in South Park. I'm like, God damn it, Right. What's going on here? So there was that, and then there was the main character. Well, not the main character, but Helm. Helm wasn't. I mean, so I read. So right before this, I read in the appendices everything about Helm Hammerhand here. So he gets the name Hammerhand because he punched the dude to death. What was that dude's name? Freka,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is in this, he calls him the fight starts because he calls him fat. He's like, oh, you got big around the waist, huh? And then he just punches him. It doesn't even say that, he just kills him, and that was it. He doesn't act like an idiot after he kills the guy. He's just like, I killed him,
he doesn't.
And you're going, and you guys are gone, or he sentenced them to he think he sentenced the son to death. What was his name? Wolf? Yeah, Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf. Yeah.
And then Wolf comes back, and he starts crying because Helm accidentally kills his father, even though his father was basically being an asshole the entire time. And then all of a sudden he turns into a complete psycho. Now in this there's a 4-year gap. I don't remember if there was a 4-year gap in the film.
Well, I don't remember if there was either. But
Feanor's getting out his
sorry about that.
His original scrolls, getting out his original scrolls. So Feanor's, if you've seen Fellowship, the basements of Minas Tirith, that's what Feanor's basement looks like. God damn it! Can you guys hear me?
All right, we're back.
Can you hear me?
We're good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
All right, because my mic is acting stupid right now.
No, I can still hear you just fine. No.
So Feanor's basement looks just like the basement of Minas Tirith. There's scrolls everywhere. There's dust. There's probably ancient knowledge. Maybe the alien drones that are invading New Jersey right now. Maybe those secret documents are somewhere piled in Feanor's basement.
You're partly right. There is a metric ton of books around here. Let's see here.
But yeah, everybody, just if you don't know Feanor has read the entire Legendarium. Have you? I want to know, like, and I'm curious. I don't know if I asked you this. Have you read like any biographies of, like, have you seen the documentary? Have you seen the '90s Tolkien documentary?
I have not. Largely, obviously, I've read into like Tolkien's
The letters, obviously.
background.
Yeah.
Letters, etc., etc. But mainly my focus has always been kind of like in the myth itself. Reading it almost like it is an actual history type deal. So I'm always studying it and figuring things out. It's always, since I was a little kid, that's where my focus has been. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Nothing really outside that purview. Although I have picked up a few third-party books. I have The Science of Middle-earth. I have a few books by David Day concerning battles, and I have the Bestiary of Middle-earth. So I'm looking at my bookshelf right now.
So you're varying your audio's varying. Sometimes you sound very close, and then sometimes you sound very far away.
It's doing that thing again. Damn it. Okay, one second. I thought I fixed that.
I think that's what reception is like out in Valinor right now, everybody.
It's
Minas. There's too many people in the base in Minas Tirith are using the internet right now. So, but yeah, so yeah, definitely. One thing I did before going to see the movie, I was listening to more of the Andy Serkis audiobook of Return of the King. So there were some chapters that I missed. So remember when the White Cloaks did the book club for Lord of the Rings? I missed. I tried to marathon Return of the King. I tried to marathon Return of the King as much as I could, and I ended up having to skip a few chapters. So one of the chapters I skipped was chapter 9 of book 5. So I listened to that. That's the chapter after the Houses of the Healing. That's right. I forget what it's called, but it's right before they go to the Black Gate. And then after that, I listened to the Black Gate chapter. Dude, the Black Gate, that chapter is so, like, reason why it's so good. And then you have freaking Andy Serkis doing it. It's just like, I felt like I was watching the movies. I was like, I'm driving my car. I'm really like, yes. I'm just like, you get that feeling like with fantasy. Like, one thing I love most about the scene in Lord of the Rings films was it gets you so hyped. It gets you so riled. It gets me so riled up. Like, I get so excited, especially when they have to go off and be courageous and have to, face their fears, during the worst possible time. And especially the Black Gate opens, and just the way Tolkien just the way he frames it, like, everything is riding on it. But then when the mouth of Sauron comes up and throws the stuff, I liked how, like, one thing, Mary wasn't there. You gotta remember, Mary was freaking injured, just like in the animated film. But in the movie, he wasn't. He just, I killed a ring wraith because I'm awesome. And then he goes with them because I'm just like, really? That was the one thing. That's so. But the whole mouth of Sauron thing was so well written. It was so good. It was so good. And I'm just like, I'm just like, they can't replicate. You can't replicate that. I mean, the only person that could possibly replicate that passed away himself, and that was his son, Christopher.
Yeah.
And Simon's like, I'm the grandson. I'm just gonna. My grandfather would want me to have the money, so here, I'm going to take the money. I'm going to take as much money as I can.
Yeah, exactly. He's
milk off my grandfather's legacy.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you. So when I went and saw this film, this experience, did it seem to you like the soundtrack was doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yes, the soundtrack.
Like that
and the
soundtrack
audio,
seemed to me just
they got the original.
overbearing. Like it was.
They got the original music editor from the Jackson trilogy to do it, and he put in the stuff that Howard Shore did. So yeah, it was probably the one thing that I actually didn't mind.
But it really felt like they made an emphasis. It almost seemed like they had run out of ideas for dialogue, and they're like, okay, screw it, let's just have a blasting symphony for the next like 20 seconds because it's
Yeah,
we can't think of anything,
yeah,
Like,
that's another issue I have with this.
It bothered me.
So they rushed this movie. So this movie was a movie of this sort, of this magnitude, takes 5 to 7 years to of work, basically, and this came out within 4. So there was a lot of stuff that that's why the animation isn't the best. I mean, I liked some of the designs, and I like Kenji Kamiyama. I think Kenji Kamiyama, I don't know if you know who he is, but he is the creator of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex and Second Gig, and a whole bunch of, and let's say he was the chief writer of those. And I know he did. I think the only thing he did was direct, and I don't even know if a Japanese studio worked on this. I don't know who did the animation. Was it Wingnut?
Well, apparently I think so here's what I heard. I might have take this with a metric ton of salt because I might just be misremembering. But what I gathered, it was something like 60 different, it was like 60 different animation teams had their hand in this. I can look it up. I was watching a Nerdrotic stream or review on it, and he said something about it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, it was something like 60 different animation teams worked on it, which is why it's kind of a jumbled mess.
Yeah, because I know Weta. Well, I think Weta did something. I think Weta was the main group that did the animation or something. Weta Workshop.
Well, there's something I really want to touch on quick, because you were talking about how the movie was rushed, and it was. And the reason it was rushed was because Warner wanted to keep the movie rights. Otherwise, they would have expired if they hadn't made that movie.
So I got a question for you. Now, you know more about more about this than I think anybody I know. What is the relationship between Warner and Amazon? Is it like a rivalry? Is it serial?
So
is there? Okay.
Well, if you ask Philippa Boynes, who was a part of this project, I have a lot of words about that woman. Given what she has recently said concerning Rings of Power, and her own little project here. There is no rivalry at all. The two are entirely separate. Amazon's doing their own thing. Warner's doing their own thing. Now, I think it's all terrible. I think that they're kind of mimicking each other's mistakes. I'm just trying to vocalize my thoughts, because I'm thinking back on going to see that movie, and it just pisses me off so much.
Yeah. So a lot of people. So I looked up at the Rotten Tomatoes. I already told you this. A lot of people liked the movie. I mean, there were a few people that had issues, that it was boring. I personally think this was boring. I didn't think it was as bad as I was expecting. I was expecting Hera to be way more insufferable based on the trailer than she actually was. She just came off as a nobody. And that probably explains that. I think that's a good reason to explain why she wasn't mentioned in the histories. But I think that was obnoxious. I think that was an obnoxious thing that was said. Like, because I mean, I read this, or I just read part of the appendices, and apparently, according to the appendices, women have been heralded for their duties too, for their achievements and all that. So so them adding that in is bullcrap, if you ask me.
Yeah, and And I loved at the beginning of the movie when they had a meta moment where they told they were telling the audience, don't bother looking for her in the books. She's not in the old songs, guys. It's like, yeah, no shit. You guys made this up.
Yeah. So we
I will
had
say this. You had a bit of contention with me on X about me saying that it was arguably worse than Rings of Power. I stand by that. I stand by that
really?
wholeheartedly.
No way. No
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah.
No way. Come on. All right, you have to explain this then. You have to make it make sense. Make it make sense, everybody.
War of the Rohirrim technically is more, I mean, so technically it is more canonically accurate than Rings of Power is to Tolkien's work. However, given the fact that this should have been a layup, okay, of a movie. You tell the story of Helm Hammerhand.
Yeah.
Canonically accurate. It's all laid out there for you in the appendices. And, as much as I bitch and moan about Rings of Power, they do have that convenient excuse of we don't have all the rights to the Second Age. So, they can't actually put out, all the canonical material. Not that they would anyway, because they have no interest in it. But Warner did have the rights to this story, and they botched it. And the other reason I'll give is that at least Rings of Power is meme worthy. There's a lot of great memes that came out of that TV show, really hilarious memes.
Oh yeah,
this is dull. The War of the Rohirrim is dull. It's boring. There's nothing really even amusing about it. There's nothing fun about it. It's just an awful sludge. It just comes across to me as just corporate sludge. There's nothing redeeming at all about this project, even in meme value. There's just nothing.
So apparently, yeah. So where did you get Womb of the Rohirrim from? So where did you get that from?
It was just off the top of my head one day. I think I was sending a super chat in to somebody. It might have been Real BBC or something like that. And it was about the show, and I just popped into my head. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna call it that. So
okay. And by the way, you got a response from a certain individual.
Oh, I did.
You did, apparently.
Who did I get it on X or in the?
Yeah. Do you see the screen that I have up right now?
Oh, I did get. Oh yeah. From Nerd Rock. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I me and him disagree on this as far as which one's worse. But again, it's and here's another thing I can point to in Rings of Power that is actually better than War of the Rohirrim. Specifically in season 2. The writing is terrible. The writing is terrible in Rings of Power. I need to preface what I'm about to say. The writing is terrible in Rings of Power. The plot is terrible in Rings of Power. There is 0% canonical accuracy in Rings of Power. However, I can point to maybe 1.5 actors in Rings of Power who, even though they were given complete shit to work with, they still did an excellent job with their acting. Okay. In this animated film, I felt like the voice acting, especially from Brian Cox, who they got to play Helm.
Yeah, that was Brian. That was Brian Cox, the guy, the dad from Succession, and he actually was the original. Fun fact: he was the original Hannibal Lecter even before Anthony Hopkins. But that's not important right now.
To me, the voice acting in this movie was dull. It was uninspired. It was. You could tell they were reading off a script.
Hera's voice actress, who happens to be, and God bless the nepotism that we've been seeing here. So the daughter of Emma Thompson, actress from the 90s. She I forget her name. She has a weird name, but she played Hera, and Hera just didn't really stand out. I like how she won against Wolf at the end was crazy. Was stupid. Like he chokes him with the shield. That's not how it happened. That's not how it happens here. You know who slays him? I can't. What's the cousin's name again?
Freyla.
Freyla. That should have been his thing.
Freyla.
He was barely in this. Sorry. But he dies outside in the meta. If I remember correctly, he dies in the meta cell. They fight, right?
Well, yeah, and I'm of the opinion, as are many other people, that Hera is much like what Rey was to Kathleen Kennedy, or what Guy Ladriel was to Jennifer Salk. It's a giant self-insert for Philippa Boyens.
Yeah, apparently, according to Philippa Boyens, Wolf represents very relevant people. Is very, let's just say, it's very relevant. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's the current day, and I'm sure, without saying his name, I'm sure everyone here knows who I'm talking about, who happens to be associated with the color orange, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just like, and by the way, speaking of the blessed nepotism, Philippa Boyen's daughter and her writing partner rewrote the movie. So the movie was originally written by these two guys, Will Matthews and Jeffrey Addis, and this is basically they're a writing team. So they wrote the first draft. So the only thing they've done besides War of the Rohirrim, I've never heard of Life in the Air. It sounds like just I don't know what it is. It just sounds it's a Jaden Smith movie. I don't know if it's sci-fi. I don't know what it is. Don't care. But the only thing that they did that is notable is the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. It's a prequel to the original Dark Crystal movie. And apparently, I haven't watched it, so I can't really comment, but I've heard it was really good. But it got canceled because nobody was watching it on Netflix. So these guys actually have something to their credit, but this is the bulk of a lot of writers now. Like they have like 3 or 4 or 5 things, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
it's sad, man. Like, and again, this one, like I said before, it was a layup. This is not a hard. You give me one.
It's all here. It's all here.
It's all there. It's all there. You first of all, you don't have it be, what was it, an hour and 30, or not an hour? It was like 130 minutes, 160 minutes, something like that. It felt like it was 3 hours.
It was 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is long for an animated film. The film should have been only 70 minutes. Like it took, I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, we're going back 90 years. The very first animated film, I'm sure you know what it is, took 3 years to make, and it nearly bankrupted the company. That movie was called Snow White, and that nearly bankrupted Disney. They had to take on additional loan. That movie took 3.5 years for 70 minutes. And they did this is 2 hours. Like 2 hours takes forever. Like making these type of movies, it takes a very long time. And like you said, like we said earlier, this was rushed, obviously. And then you have Philippa Boyens' daughter. So her daughter here. Okay, maybe you guys don't see this. Wait.
No, you still have my Twitter feed pulled up.
I still have your Twitter feed. I thought I had I thought I was sharing my computer. So. This is Philippa Boyens' daughter. This is Phoebe Giddens right here, and she was tasked by her mother to rewrite the script that Will Matthews and Jeffrey Addis did. And look at how much more credits they got. So she worked on this, and then she worked on something called The Sorrows, which I've never heard of, and that's all they did. And I'm curious, like, I think I responded, like, I forget what it was. Like there was a writing inconsistency that you brought up or something. And I said, this is probably because of Philippa Boyens' daughter, very, very inexperienced writers working on something like this. So,
right.
Yeah, but I mean, I even looked into Philippa Boyens. Like, what else has she done? It seems like she's just rode on the coattails of Fran Walsh and Peter Jackson. Well, Fran Walsh was part of it because she's the wife of Peter Jackson and everything.
Yeah,
But
and
Philippa Boyens, I don't know how is she related to them. Like that, she's only worked with Peter Jackson. She hasn't produced anything else, and of course, she's based in New Zealand, just like they are.
yeah, and her only thing that she's made of merit, to my knowledge, or been a part of making, to my knowledge, is the
and the Hobbits too, I think.
and the Hobbit. We don't count those.
Oh come on! I didn't hate the Hobbits. I actually really enjoyed them when they came out. But yeah, I get why. I mean, it's nowhere near Lord of the Rings level, but I really enjoyed them. I still managed to enjoy them.
I don't know if you saw it, but I posted, because I've been doing like those little funny shorts between my wife and I, where it's like she's either laughing at me or scolding me or something like that. I've been posting like a little anime picture. That thing about me ranting after The Hobbit, 100% legit. That is a real thing that happened. We got out of the movie theater and I was hot, man. I was like, this was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was losing it.
Which film? Which Hobbit film?
It was. I want to say it was Battle of the Five Armies.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Battle of the Five Armies did. There was some ridiculous stuff. I know the thing that people hated the most was I think the chases work very cartoony, especially with the dwarves and Gandalf, especially in the right after they slay the Goblin King, and they're in the Misty Mountains, and they're falling off of bridges, and they're landing, and it's ridiculous. And they're fine, but then again, I was able to suspend that disbelief because they're dwarves. If they were human, it'd be a different story. But dwarves, I mean,
you're not falling down. No, you're not falling that far.
I mean, they live in these type of places. I don't know. Okay, fine. All right, fine.
Yeah,
I am not the lore master. So if you say so.
Gravity still exists in Middle Earth, my friend. Okay. But I will tell you this, right? So if you gave me an animation studio of my choice, and $30 million and said, produce the story of Helm Hammerhand, you gave it to me, you gave it to you gave it to, I'm trying to think, if you gave it to literally anybody who knows anything about Tolkien.
Yeah.
You'd make your money back on that movie opening weekend.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you make. I'm just trying to put this together. You make first of all, anime over the past anime obviously had its resurgence in the 90s, but it's really blown up between the early 2000s and now. I mean, it's just become this phenomenon as a medium of entertainment. How do you have that? You have the Tolkien IP. You have the license to do Lord of the Rings movies, in an anime format, and it flops. How do you mess up that bad? And I'll tell you why. It's because they didn't stick to the canon.
Do you think it's also because Rings of Power hurt it? People have just gotten people gotten checked out because of Rings of Power.
I think there is an aspect of it too that is definitely there. That's kind of undeniable. I think Rings of Power has hurt the IP, for lack of a better term, to a significant degree. A lot of people, the only good thing that Rings of Power did was get people back into the books. And when people got back into the books, they realized just how terrible Rings of Power was, and they just turned that off and decided just to stick with the books. For the most part, there's still a few stragglers out there that are true believers of that show.
Yeah,
I don't really pay them any. But yeah, I think it definitely hurt it. I think a lot of it, they really, really wanted to market this thing on nostalgia. Here's a return to Middle Earth. You guys remember the Rohirrim, right? And the other thing too that kind of solidifies that point is all of the old actors they brought back to promote it or even work on the show. They brought the Miranda Otto, who was the actress for Eowyn. She was the narrator for the movie.
Yeah.
and that stuff just doesn't sell anymore. People that are going to movies now and trying to enjoy their entertainment, first of all, they're getting a lot of their information on what to watch and what not to watch based on people like yourself, like me, like Gary from Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, Mahler and EFAP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because what we are doing is we are pointing out everything that's wrong with these films and TV shows. And so if they hear like, oh man, something might potentially be bad, they'll go and see it, but word of mouth is not going to be good unless we have a surprise, like an Arcane season 1 or a House of the Dragon season 1 or something like that. You're not going to really have that surprise most of the time. It's going to be, terrible, which is a shame too. And I just wonder at this point if there needs to be some kind of like law passed where it's like all intellectual property past a certain date just becomes just public domain.
Mm-hmm.
Just let everybody have at it, because eventually something good has to come out of it.
Yeah.
Because right now with Warner and Amazon having the reins of Lord of the Rings, we're not going to get anything. It's going to be bad. I am dreading the Hunt for Gollum movie. That movie is going to be so terrible.
You don't think Andy Serkis can help it at all?
No, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be either some consulting firm that's going to come in, or you're going to have a Philippa Boyens that comes in, or somebody who's going to come in the middle of production who is just going to tear the thing apart. I think that's it's going to be like this movie right here. It's going to start off with a lot of good intentions. Hey, we want to tell a good Lord of the Rings story. I forget who it was. I forget the guy's name, but it's one of the directors on War of the Rohirrim who came out after Rings of Power season 1 and said this was awful. Like he was talking shit about the television, and
one of the directors
it didn't matter anyway.
Of War of the Rohirrim.
War of the Rohirrim, yeah, it was either director or producer. I can't remember which.
I mean, Kenji Kamiyama. Kenji Kamiyama was the director of War of the Rohirrim.
Or not direct. Yeah, Let me.
Producers. We have Philippa Boyens, we have Jason DeMarco, and we have Joseph Chow.
Jason DeMarco. Jason DeMarco. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
What is he?
Jason DeMarco.
Jason DeMarco.
Lots in the anime industry, if I recall correctly. But yeah, he was talking mad shit about Rings of Power, and he was like, "No, we're going to be doing this right. We're going to be doing this right." And it feels like to me, like you were saying, it was rushed, and then you have studio interference, and then you have executive producer interference. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
And it all just went downhill from there. Excuse me. It was just how do you? I think that's the thing that makes me so mad. Is just how do you mess this up? It's so easy. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it, because I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, guys, me by myself in my living room could have done a better job at this than you guys did. At least from a storytelling perspective. Like
so I got a question for you. What do you think of Gadfly's comment below that it should have been Brian Blessed that played Helm Hammerhand? Because I'm thinking, like, if you're going to have a very, boisterous, very, very proud, very arrogant, king, it would have to be Brian Blessed.
You know what? I think the guy they picked was a good choice, Brian Cox. I just think they didn't really give him anything good to work with. If they had done Helm right, I think if you remember, if I recall correctly, it was Brian Cox that played Agamemnon in the Troy movie with Brad Pitt and yeah.
Oh yeah,
that
was right.
That
was right. That was in it. Yeah, that's right.
He was phenomenal in that.
Yes, he was.
I know
he was terrifying.
He was scary.
He's not a big dude. He was terrifying in that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he could have absolutely done Helm right had they written Helm right. I think that's the kind of the in all things that we criticize, it's the writing that comes first. And
I didn't mean to. Honest. Shut up. Tolkien wouldn't write that.
Yeah.
Come on, shut up.
He didn't write that. Helm killed Freka and was like, "You guys get lost. I just killed him. Like, big deal. Get out of here."
Yeah.
He did not care.
No, he didn't. So apparently all the stuff that he did as the, what did they call him, the ghost of, or the, what did they call him again?
The
Like
wraith of
the
the wraith of Helm Hammerhand. Yeah.
the wraith of Helm Hammer hand. And I'll be honest, I mean, like you said this on your tweet right here, that it should have been a horror. Like, if you would have done this, you would have made it into possibly a horror where he's picking off the Dunlendings one by one.
Yeah, well, the way I would have done it is I would have first of all, it would have been no longer than 100 minutes. I put out a tweet about this. No longer than 100 minutes. The movie would have been rated R. Okay. This is a brutal story, so it needs to have the brutality in it. What was the other thing? The story would have been a POV mainly from Helm. Obviously, like in that specific sequence, I would have had the POV from the perspective of the men of Dunland, where they're like experiencing this terror of Helm just ripping them apart with his bare hands. And then I would have dedicated the last probably like say 20 minutes of that film just to that brutality. And then I would have closed out the film just with Helm frozen in place like he is in the books, still standing. And then it would just cut to black and roll credits. That's what I would have done. You know, like something really suspenseful, action-packed, dark, gritty, and lore accurate. That would and not drawn out too long.
Yeah. So I want to say hello, Billy Billerson. I think it's the first time I've ever seen you here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing this right here. Yes, I agree. They will definitely, and I don't know if Hollywood's always done this. I mean, I think George Lucas was an exception with Star Wars because Alan Ladd Jr. saw something in him. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely the case nowadays. Like, yeah, if you don't toe the line, you're out of the industry. So that's why everybody's, right. That's why, and you have, I'm wondering if any, these people, like, after they write their stuff, that they're out like that. So, but yeah, this is crazy.
This film, man, and
I didn't find the link. I found the link and it didn't come up with anything. So maybe send it again. So yes.
My old lady was laughing at me when we got out of the theater, man, because I didn't say a word. I was so
what did she so she saw it too. What'd she think?
She thought it was boring, and then she's not into this kind of realm of like critique, like
yeah.
But even she was like nudging me in the theater and like giggling, like when she did the line. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I am bride to no man, or I am wed to no man, or whatever the hell it is. Mm-hmm. At the end there, my old lady started cracking up. She was just like, "This is the dumbest fucking thing." It was just, oh man. But she was mainly laughing at me for like audibly groaning in the theater whenever something dumb happened, which was a lot. It was pretty much the entire 2-hour time frame, start to finish. I was just like,
So I got another question for you. And you're still kind of going far away. So
am I?
Yeah,
okay,
a little bit. Well, now, I mean,
let me turn on my gain real quick.
Do
there we go.
Do your sexy Feanor. Do your sexy Feanor voice right here. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I got another question.
Chat.
I'm looking at the main source for everything that exists in this world, Wikipedia. And according to the Wikipedia, it says that this takes place 183 years before the events of the War of the Ring. So I don't know how Jackson and the Jackson films handled the chronology, because they didn't obviously. But it's if you go by what Tolkien wrote, it's clearly not 183 years, because if I remember correctly, the War of the Ring happens in 3816 or something.
Well, it's a good thing I have the source right here. Let me So the events of Helm Hammerhand, Death of Helm, is 2759, third age.
And 3018 was when the War of the Ring happens. So that's more than 193 years.
Yeah, a matter of fact, it was like 200 years later. Yeah, roughly 200 years later that Aragorn first meets Gandalf. So, yeah, no, that's wildly inaccurate.
So is Theoden related to is Theoden related to Freylaf? What is it? Freylaf?
Yeah. By a long line of kings. But yes.
So was it made up for this movie that he is also a Dunlending, and so they don't trust him? Here's another dumb thing. Why was he sent away? Because he's the one that rescued her. They put a scene in the movie that didn't need to be there. Apparently there was the elephant. I forgot what they call the Oliphants in this. I forgot what their main name, what they're called is, but apparently there's one just running around. Was there a reason for that? Was that, oh, we think that the Easternlings are going to be part of this, even though they were in the lore? Like, the Easterlings did attack in the lore.
Yeah. So it's kind of, there's a whole bunch of wars going on at this point. The Gondorians are getting attacked.
Mumakil. Thanks, Nathan. By the way, since Nathan's here, I have to put this up right here. So 1 second.
I'm a man of Manethrin, and I approve this message.
There you go. What's up, buddy? Sorry. Finish your thoughts. Sorry,
you're good. You're good. There's a whole bunch of wars going on at this time. You have the Gondorians are getting attacked by the Corsairs. You have the Rohirrim fighting with the men of Dunland. It's a pretty chaotic time in the Third Age. And if I recall correctly, and I've had a few people correct me, friends of mine correct me on things I had forgotten. But apparently it wasn't just Freyloth who came and drove the men of Dunland out. It was also with the assistance of Gondor as well. Which was excluded. They just said the Gondorians are too busy to help us, essentially.
And you know what's funny is from what I was reading, I was not just reading like the Helm Hammerhand part, but also the part of the appendices that kind of describes how Rohan was founded. So Rohan, the people that eventually settled in Rohan were from the north, if I remember correctly. Was it Rovanian or something that?
I can't remember off the top of my head. They were just from the north, and it was Eorl the Younger who rode down Gondor's aid, if I recall correctly. And it's number 2. It's the House of Eorl. So Eorl the Young. Was it Isildur who made the bond of friendship with the men of Rohan? I'm pretty sure.
Carrion, Steward of Gondor.
This one, Isildur had a hand at the House of Eorl.
I don't think it was them.
No. Eric and the Gladden, the Beornings. Earl claimed to from kings of Ravanian, who claimed to lay beyond.
Yeah, like the thing is, and this is one thing that I will give Tolkien a lot of credit for. It's tough to read sometimes. There's so many names, and I'm trying to differentiate all the names that he has. He has so many. That's what made my initial read when I was a teenager so daunting. I'm like, what is this name? What is that name? Like, there's just so many. But yeah, so apparently Gondor called for aid originally, because apparently there was wild men attacking Gondor, and I think that there was an orc host too that was also attacking. So those men came and they saved Gondor, and because of that, Gondor granted them the land between the Eisen and the land between the Anduin, basically, which is basically what became Rohan. And they didn't call themselves Rohan. It's the Gondorians that called them Rohan initially, and Rohirrim. I forget what they call themselves. They call themselves the Aerlings.
The Aothed. Well, there was the Aothed.
Aothed. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
and they were free to make their own nation and make their own laws and their own and set forth their own destiny. So but I'll be honest, between reading this and reading, I didn't finish it yet, but I did start reading Baron and Luthien at your suggestion. Dude, that stuff is good. That stuff is gold, man. That stuff is so good.
Yeah.
Like, that's so messed up. Like, Sauron is so messed up. Not Rings of Power, Rings of Stupid Sauron, but like Tolkien Sauron is like probably the most evil thing ever. Like, it's so crazy, so good. Like, you know what I want? I know this is kind of early to say this, and we'll eventually talk about what's on the screen. I want a faithful, not a Harry Potter, I don't want a Harry Potter faithful where they're going to say it's faithful to the book and then they're going to do something stupid like, race swap or something. But I want a faithful Lord of the Rings, like something totally faithful. Like, you have Fatty Bulger in it. You have the time. You have the time skip, and and the most important thing is you have Aragorn be the freaking king before he is the freaking king. And then when he becomes the freaking king, it's freaking awesome.
Right. Well, the other thing too is like, see, this is the problem with Rings of Power coming out right before season 2 of Rings of Power coming out right before War of the Rohirrim. Like, I get so invested in first and second age stuff that I end up forgetting about some of the third age stuff. I was so off base when I said Isildur. It wasn't even close. I don't know why Isildur popped in my head, but about Earl the Younger.
Yeah.
But
by the way, look who's in the chat. We have the Steward of Gondor himself. Now the question is, are you eating tomatoes, and are you bleeding from eating those tomatoes? There's another thing that they screwed up. Denethor in the book was a noble man. Yeah, he was a noble man. He wasn't stupid. So when he sees something that drives him to despair, it's a real effing thing. It's a real freaking thing.
I'll tell you.
And then when they get to the gates, they like, oh crap, he was right. This is bad, dude. This is bad. So yeah.
I have, with these adaptations, and obviously being a massive fan of the books and like studied the lore quite extensively, I'm having a bit of kind of like a retrospective moment on those trilogy films as adaptations. I think they're incredibly well made films.
I've been thinking the same thing as you. Sorry, keep going.
I'm having a retrospective on them where I'm like, man, as adaptations, they were kind of shit. Like, there's a few things they got right, but there's a whole lot they got wrong. And what was the tweet I put out? Every adaptation that comes out, I get more and more Christopher pilled because Christopher hated those movies.
Yes, he
did.
And
I'm just like,
yes, he
and
did.
I'm just like, man, I'm starting to see it. I know there's a lot of people that disagree with me, but it is what
what's funny is despite that, I still love those films. But if you're going to top, there's only one way to top those films, and it has to be a strict faithful Tolkien adaptation with Tolkien dialogue and Tolkien characters. So like, Aragorn is not the glum, reluctant, king. He is Elendil. That's the Aragorn, that you're the no nonsense Aragorn. And same with Gandalf is pretty much the same, I think. Yeah. Gandalf is pretty much the same, but like Aragorn, and especially Denethor, and I'm sure, Merry Pippin, get rid of the stupid, them being idiots. Bring back, you have to bring the conspiracy back. Well, and how it pays off in the end when they knew that Frodo was leaving. Once again, pays off the conspiracy. I mean, it's good shit. Sorry.
I kicked the hornet's nest over the past 2 days by talking about the fact of how, as it pertains to Tolkien adaptations, the the exclusion of Glorfindel in favor of having Arwen, who rescued Frodo, is what kind of kicked off all the girl boss stuff in Tolkien adaptations.
That this Frodo. Yeah, I saw that. I saw your tweet. I saw your tweet about that. I actually responded to that. Yeah, I was like, because I read it last year. I was like, holy crap, this is different. Like I nearly forgot about that. Yeah, there's a point where Frodo's holding his sword, and they took that scene, but they took that moment and they gave it to Gandalf. So Gandalf takes out his sword, Glamdring, and I think it was Glamdring. Yeah, it was Glamdring. And the Witch King just basically, or no, not Glamdring. Sorry, his staff. He takes out his white staff, and then the Witch King takes out his flame sword and knocks him down. And he did in Fellowship. He did that to Frodo at the ford. Yeah. And Frodo had that awesome. Frodo had that awesome thing. What was it? I'm going to find it now.
Frodo had the scene when Frodo crossed the ford. He did so by himself. Glorfindel's horse is what carried him across the ford. And then Frodo, half in a daze because he'd been stabbed by the Witch King, drew his own sword, and the Nazgul laughed at him. And then Glorfindel came upon the Nazgul and scared the hell out of them. And when they ran into the river, it was Elrond's power coupled with Gandalf wanting to be a show-off that drowned the Nazgul. Now contrast that with the movies, who have Arwen show up. Here's the biggest problem with that entire sequence. You have Aragorn, who should be on red alert. They're being hunted by the Nazgul. He has been a ranger his whole life. He is an heir of Numenor. He has all of the gifts given to him. Right? He still gets snuck up on by his girlfriend. Yeah. Who then proclaims that she is the faster rider, so she should be the one to take Frodo to Rivendell. She outruns all of the Nazgul, and then she is the one who summons the flood.
You know what's funny is they stole that. They stole that scene and they put it in Wheel of Time season 1, where the character Nynaeve does that to the character Lan Mandragoran. I'm sure Salty and Nathan will probably disagree. I don't know if they'll agree with me on that, but I'm sure they stole it. So yeah, so like this Lord of the Rings trilogy and Game of Thrones, in my opinion, have single-handedly destroyed entertainment, basically, because of how big they became, how relevant they became. Everybody all they do is copy them. Heck, Star Trek, New Trek, even copied Game of Thrones, and everything is copying Lord of the Rings, the movies.
Yeah, and it's one of those deals where, and I tweeted about this after I saw Womb of the Rohirrim. I think it was a mistake for the Jackson films to be made. I really do. In retrospect, I really, really do. I feel like because you have so many people that have been introduced to Tolkien through the lens of Peter Jackson.
I didn't hear that. Can you say that again? I didn't hear that. You cut out.
Sure. I said I think that the Jackson films were a giant mistake.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people have been introduced to Tolkien's work through the Jackson films, which sounds good, but more often than not, I feel I run into people all the time who will say something like, "Oh, I love Lord of the Rings. I've seen the movies." They've never touched the books. And people have this kind of like this shade over their eyes where like it's one of the things I always talk about with people that don't want to people don't want to engage. People who have engaged with the movies, who love the movies, who have only seen the movies, do not want to engage with the books because they are afraid of having the movies tarnished for them, because the books are simply better. It's not even a close comparison. And I run into it a lot. It is what it is. And I honestly think like hindsight's 2020, and maybe J.R.R. Tolkien was right when he said that his books were unfilmable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know. Honestly, we'll have to see further down the line what happens with entertainment, but like I honestly I think that that ship has sailed with getting really good adaptations. Now back to War of the Rohirrim. My question for you is do you so I'm looking at one of your tweets right now. So you think Wolf is the most uninteresting, non-threatening villain you've ever seen? Honestly, I mean the only thing that I'm grateful for was that during during that, remember, like they captured her and then she tries to fight them or something. He was kind of holding her back, so I was like, I'm glad he didn't look like a total idiot then. But then the bull shield maiden woman, I forgot her name, she just ran through the door like she was a bull or something, and I was like, who is this person? Like, how can she do that?
He really came across to me as generic bad guy number 876. There was nothing. Oh, his dad was killed by Helm, and he was banished, and now he's out for revenge. Oh, great storytelling there. I found him to be just boring as hell. There's no other way to describe it.
I just like he just turned into a psycho because his dad challenged the king. I mean, and you mess with Helm Hammerhand. Now he wasn't known as Hammerhand, but the guy was big, and the guy's going to punch you. You're going to hurt. And I think he should. But then Helm just like, oh, you are now enemies of the Republic, type of deal. I'm just like, he's going to come back. I'm like,
real quick. I want to address
so stupid. Sorry,
I want to address something that John Boy said in the chat. John Boy, you're 100% correct. There are plenty of people that have gotten into the books because of Peter Jackson's movies. I'm saying there's also a contingent of people out there who have only seen the movies, and that's all Lord of the Rings is to them.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you bring it up, you try and have a conversation with somebody about Lord of the Rings, about the lore and everything like that. All they know is the movies. And anything that is separate from that in terms of like actual canonical stuff, the actual books themselves, they don't have any interest in.
Yeah. Did you see the original Bakshi film?
A very long time ago. It's been ages. I still see clips pop up on my X feed every once in a while. But like for instance, probably the was it Bakshi who did the very unthreatening Balrog?
I don't remember.
I
remember the orcs looked very terrifying because of the rotoscoping effect that they use for them.
Yeah.
But I don't. Now that I think about it, I'll have to look it up now. But yeah. So I want to read Salty's thing that he sent me. So Wolf finds himself on the receiving end of Hera's sword in Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim. To this end, Boyens was then asked if the film's production team had taken into consideration the vocal pushback from Tolkien fans regarding these changes, to which she confirmed, I don't think you can. It's like Tolkien didn't just write books. He wrote an entire mythology and a vast, incredible work, which is so detailed and so complex and works on so many different layers. And you can leave that alone and not touch it. But he himself did not want that. And he himself said that he wanted other minds to come to it. Bull.
That's
bull.
It's you know what my counter argument to that is very simple. Here, I'll pull it up real quick.
All right.
I have a counter argument that's also a quote.
Isn't it pinned on your on your X account?
It's pinned on my Twitter. It's pinned on my Twitter and X, whatever we're calling it these days. The canons of narrative in any medium cannot be wholly different, and the failure of poor films is often precisely an exaggeration in the intrusion of unwarranted matter owing to not perceiving where the core of the original lies. So Philippa Boyens can take your sad excuse and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. That's
this right here, straight from the High King's mouth. So
Oh, straight from Tolkien's mouth. Forget my mouth.
I mean, you said you. Well, okay, that's okay. I stand corrected. I stand fucking corrected. Excuse my language. But yeah, I mean,
I need to watch my mouth.
The word, but yeah, like just like the way Tolkien just comes up with words to say is just so good. It's just saying this. You're like, what? I have to read it like 3 times just to understand what he's getting at sometimes. But the way he words stuff is so nobody talks like it. Nobody talks like that. That's
pretty much to boil it down. What he's saying is don't put unnecessary BS into movies that are trying to adapt something else.
And you can't make it too different, or you can't make it too different, or people are it's gonna be a totally different thing. So
yeah, and you're gonna lose the spirit. You're gonna lose the spirit of what the actual thing was. Doing that.
Honestly, I mean, even though there's a lot of differences, I honestly feel that the Jackson films, I feel that Jackson films do not have this issue. Now I know, like when he read the script that somebody tried to adapt Lord of the Rings, that was the case. They made it too different. But I think the spirit of the original was in the Jackson films. Despite the differences, and I know you had your misgiving, or I know you stated your thing about like maybe being poor adaptations. I mean, depends on what you think of a good and poor adaptation. I mean, now Wheel of Prime on Amazon, that is an extremely poor adaptation because they didn't even include major moments, major events from the books. Whereas here, I mean, for the most part, the major events were present. I mean, there were certain things that weren't in the books, like there were certain things in the books that weren't in the movies that, like when they got attacked, when they were camping on, they got attacked by wolves. I remember correctly. I think this was before. I don't remember if this was after or before Gandalf Falls. I think this was after Gandalf Falls. And then of course, and then when they were on the river, one other case was when they were on the river. It became like a horror film, and they were hiding from the newly resurfaced Nazgul that are now flying on these fell beasts, and they were hiding in the boats, in the elf boats, basically, or they had to pull over and hide because of that, and it felt like a horror movie in a way. So, and then of course there's the whole Fatty Bulger running from the mansion, or running from the house when the ringwraiths show up. So that was another great. I mean, so there was a lot of stuff that was not included, but I don't think they were important enough. They weren't important enough compared to Frodo being stabbed at Weathertop, the Battle of Helm's Deep, the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and Mount Doom and everything.
It's interesting you bring that up because, like for instance, there are omissions from the book that I totally understand. For instance, Tom Bombadil. Had Jackson included Tom Bombadil in the movies, it would have dragged the pacing down to a crawl. Like it really would have been. It would not have been good.
I think if they were to do a pure adaptation, a true adaptation of Tolkien, it would have to be in a TV show format, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And Bombadillo has to be Bombadillo. He can't be brooding Bombadillo or brooding Tom.
Right.
Something from season 2. Like I'm like that. Is that Tom Bombadil, or is that or is that like a wizard, or is that one of the Hogwarts wizards, one of the Hogwarts teachers? I mean,
fucking the thing I was gonna say is like as far as like a point scoring, and again, all of this is like in retrospect for me. In point scoring, I would say as pure films, films as an art form, I would give the Lord of the Rings a 9 out of 10. They're incredible films. I'm not going to take that away from them. I never will. As adaptations, I can't give them any higher than a 3. I think there's 3 out of 10. I think there's aspects to them that are very Tolkien-like. I think certain casting was done brilliantly. Saruman as with Christopher Lee, Ian McKellen as Gandalf, and certainly some of the aesthetic choices were.
Did you know that Saruman was originally promised to play Gandalf?
Yeah,
I think
yeah. Well, he had the
you
blessing of
said
Tolkien.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, keep going.
The thing of it is there between I can list off a myriad of things. Having Glorfindel replaced by Arwen, completely changing Faramir and Denethor's characters. Changing Aragorn's character.
Yeah.
Actually,
well, I forget how. So I forget Faramir. Now, if I remember correctly, Faramir never got tempted by the ring, unlike in the movies.
Yeah,
because
correct.
that whole thing where he takes them back to Osgiliath didn't happen. So
yeah,
I forgot why that happened that way. I forgot why they made that.
I think that was another. I've heard rumors that was a decision by Philippa Boyens again. To have that change to Faramir's character, whether there's any validity to that, I don't know. Well, here's the thing, right? Maximus, hold on, I gotta read this chat. Crazy rating, bro. Forget the slop you've consumed lately. Compare the Jackson films to the Harry Potter films.
Okay,
see that.
Okay.
It's an adaptation.
I was
I'm not talking.
I was sorry. 1 second. I was comparing. Sorry, we weren't comparing the Jackson films to the Harry Potter films. I agreed. No question. No question. I was just making a joke or a terrible jest about the actor that played Tom Bombadil, or like that he sounded like he could have been a Harry Potter professor for all I know. But that was a dumb thing. But that's not what we're gonna. Feanor continues.
But here's the thing. Okay, so then you have the elves at Helm's Deep. That's another thing that didn't happen. You have the army of the dead washing over the city of Minas Tirith like they're Drano. Nothing something that did not happen in the books. Arwen is dying because the strength of Sauron is increasing, something that never happened in the books. There's just so many changes that were done. And again, I adore those films as films, and I don't cast aspersions on Peter Jackson. I think he genuinely was trying to create a respectful adaptation. I'm not going to take anything away from him in that regard. I just don't think that he succeeded the way a lot of people who have viewed the movies think he succeeded in making a quality adaptation. Again, I think those films, if the mythos of J.R.R. Tolkien didn't exist, and this was just the dream of, this was the original creation of Peter Jackson, it would be a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, period. But because I'm talking about in terms of adapting Tolkien's work, I have to give it between a 3 and a 4. That's just, and I can't really back off of that at this point. There's too much that was unnecessarily changed with the excuse of pacing. Like, Bombadil's one thing. There's no excuse to bring or to take out Glorfindel. There's no excuse. There's no reason in the world to have the elves at Helm's Deep. Just portray the men of Rohan as competent. And same with the army of the dead at Minas Tirith. You don't need to do that. Take the ships and then have Aragorn go with the Dunedain to Minas Tirith. That's what you have to do. I'm gonna stop rambling because I know we're supposed to be talking about War of the Rohirrim, but that's just my take on it.
Yeah, it's his take. Definitely disagree. If you don't agree, definitely state why you disagree. Let's keep it as civil as possible. If not, you can make fun of me. You can make fun of me because I kind of egged that. I kind of brought that up. So, So, honestly, I mean, there are times where I do agree that I think things probably could have been better, but I still think the Jackson films are some of the best. I'm with Neurotic and a whole bunch of other people when they say it's the greatest trilogy ever made. I mean, I haven't.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I
100% agree.
It's because of the fact that it was adapted from probably the greatest from the greatest story, in my opinion, in the last 1,000 years. Now, I'm sure people in the chat might disagree. Maybe they prefer Anna Karenina or something. I forget who wrote that. Was that Tolstoy or Dostoevsky? I don't remember. I mean,
real quick, I just thought of something. So I need to put a little caveat on something. If I'm
Okay.
comparing the Jackson trilogy to The Hobbit, Rings of Power, or War of the Rohirrim, then I'm definitely going to put it on a higher scale in comparison to those. I rank those in the negative hundreds. Okay, I think they are awful, all of them. So when compared to other adaptations of Tolkien's work, the Lord of the Rings trilogy does get a positive rating from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was talking to the chat, talking about going into Russian Russian literature. I haven't read War and Peace. I haven't read Tolstoy, but I'm actually kind of interested in reading the Brothers Karamazov, which is another Dostoevsky thing. Not as famous as
I feel terrible because Lady B sent me the entire Wheel of Time series ages ago, and I still haven't gotten around to that. I still feel so bad.
So I mean, in Wheel of Time, one of the greatest quotes is, "Duty is heavier than a mountain." So one of the guys that follows you had a Rand Al Thor avatar on this thing, and I was just like, "Hey, dude, hey, dude, I'm reading Wheel of Time myself. I got the books." I got all 14 of the books right here. I just finished book 6 not too long ago. Dane in the chat was on with me. We were, because Dane, when it comes to Wheel of Time, Dane of the White Cloaks is probably the biggest lore master when it comes to Wheel of Time. Well, him and Pips and Man Manethrin and Prophet of the Dragon, all those guys. But yeah, I was just saying, hey, definitely check out the book club and everything. And we just read books. I just finished book 6, and book 6 got really high. Book 6 has been like hyped by these guys quite a bit, and I wasn't happy with aspects of the 4th book and the 5th book. Yeah, I know. It's a hot take. I know, but there were still things I liked in those books that kept me reading. But I read book 6, and I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to agree with this. But then I got to the end. I was like, dude, I got hyped the last 6 chapters of that book. The way I felt the way I did when I was reading Lord of the Rings and when I was watching the Peter Jackson films, like, because they were going off. Let's just say somebody gets caught, and the main character. Let's just say somebody gets caught, and their friends go after him. And they have to get ready for the fact that they're going into battle, and they're basically preparing for it. And whenever something like that happens, this idea of facing your fears, having to find your courage, and just going out there and having this crazy, awesome dialogue. So Robert Jordan is not quite the level of J.R. Tolkien when it comes to words, but he's very close at points. And he had some great stuff in there. And let's just say from the last 6 chapters from start to finish were just straight up balls out awesome and everything. So yeah, so I'm really happy. I'm actually really happy. Feanor, I think you would like the Wheel of Time quite a bit. I don't think you would agree.
I will get to it eventually.
Current takes, but I think you will like. I think you will like the Wheel of Time. You just gotta get ready for a lot of women talking down to men quite a bit, because that's the nature of the Wheel of Time, basically. So, but yeah, we got so John Boy. Thank you, John Boy. Gifted 10 Nurporial memberships. Thank you so much for doing that. So we definitely got a whole bunch of people. So we got Ken O, Hallowfield, Silverlock, Wakizashi's Tea House, Suzanne, the Bubble Boy, not the Seinfeld Bubble Boy, Moops. Padawannabe, Kyla Dare, and Man Manethrin himself. Nice. So yeah. Who invaded Spain in the 8th century? It was the Moops. So, but yeah, everybody. Yeah, thanks for that. What were we talking about? I was telling you to read Wheel of Time. You'll get to it eventually, but it's really good. If you like Lord of the Rings, I don't think it's as good as Lord of the Rings, but I think it's up there. It's a lot of people's favorite fantasy series for a reason. Everything. So, and yeah, so there you go. So, but War of the Rohirrim. We're talking about War of the Rohirrim, aren't we? Yeah. So I'm gonna let's go through some of your let's go through some of your stuff right here. So, okay, I got this up right here. So you want to talk about your tweet? I think it was today. One of the most consistent arguments I've seen is since Eowyn was also a badass, and let's say was one of the greatest moments I've seen in film, that blaming Arwen for being the girl boss Dallas for Tolkien adaptations is silly. Eowyn's badassery is canonical, and her story is built to that point. Also, if you watch how the scene with the Witch King plays out, she's terrified. It's true, but faces her foe head on to protect her uncle, whom she loves. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So when I posted up my thing about, because obviously with War of the Rohirrim you have a girl boss, with Rings of Power you have a girl boss. All of this stemmed from Arwen at the Fords of Isaac, in the Fellowship of the Ring. That's where it came from, and I don't care what anybody says to the contrary. Situation. And then I had a lot of people bringing up, well, there was Eowyn. And it's like, you guys are not seeing the full picture with Eowyn. Eowyn had to build up to that point. It wasn't like she came roaring out of the gates as a badass. She had a lot of character development that had to occur before that kind of climactic moment with the Witch King. Whereas with Arwen, you have her immediately show up and be a badass right out the gate.
Yeah, she stole that from Glorfindel. Or is it Glorfindel? I forget how you pronounce. How do you, when you read it, how do you pronounce in your head? Do you say Glorfindel or do you say Glorfindel?
Glorfindel.
There you go. Me too. I can't say Glorfindel. It sounds. I'm sure it's probably the right way to say it, but yeah, keep going.
But again, Eowyn's story. Granted, they kind of screwed around with it in the films a little bit, but for the most part, that was canonical. That whole build up to her taking down the Witch King with Mary's assistance, that was canonical. But none of this with Arwen was at all. And the Arwen thing took away from so many other characters.
Yeah.
I even said it. You can see it right there in the post. It took away from Glorfindel. It took away from Aragorn. It took away from Gandalf, and it took away from Elrond. Like,
how did it take away from Elrond?
Because Elrond's the one who caused the flood.
But that's right. That's right. Yeah, Elrond caused the flood, and Gandalf made it look like horses. Gandalf kind of decorated. Decorated the flood. Okay, all right. I remember now. Okay.
Yep. And I posted it in the post that's kind of before this one, where I said essentially, if they hadn't have done that whole thing with Arwen, I think it would have given future directors, future creators of Tolkien adaptations cause for pause.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have been what I think. I guarantee you there was somebody in a board meeting who was like, hey, well, they did that thing with Arwen. Let's just repeat doing that over and over again in our Tolkien adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
So if that hadn't happened, I mean, chances are, given the ideological framework of Hollywood, we probably would have gotten girl bosses anyway. I've already acknowledged that. But, I think there would have at least been a little bit more. It might have been tempered a little bit as opposed to the extreme that it is now.
Yeah. So
sorry, I'm going to keep talking. I'm listening. I'm just getting some water real quick.
All right. So yeah, we got hey, we got Prophet of the Dragons here. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Hope everything's going well for you, sir. So what else we got? So we have so we got the I think we got the highlights. No. All right, we got Box Office Mojo right here. So apparently this movie was the $30 million budget, probably even more for marketing and putting out marketing and man, I have such a brain fart. Promotion and everything. So probably 40 to 50 million. I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe the marketing's more sometimes compared to the budget,
right.
But here, yeah, worldwide 10. Oh, I don't have it. I don't have it up. All right, sorry. That's what she said. Excuse me. All right, let's try this again.
All good.
Let's try this again. Share screen. The rollout. No, there. Here we go. All right. So domestic only made 4.6 million. So Feanor, when you went to the theater, you went on Friday. So I went on Thursday. Naturally, there's probably not. I went Thursday at 6 p.m., which is I actually literally went right from work. So I work all the way in the west outskirts of Chicagoland, and I came back home and I went to Skokie to go see this movie. So it was basically an odyssey in and of itself. And so on my way to the theater, I was listening, like I said earlier, I was listening to Return of the King by Andy Serkis, and just to prepare myself in case of how disappointed I would be. But there was I went, and honestly, like I'm not the thinnest guy in the world, but I was like I was me and like 7 other people, and it was all dudes, and they were all overweight. Now I'm not saying I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying that's what I saw. So there was barely anybody there, and then when the movie ended, someone tried to clap, but then it died off because no one else was clapping. So it just fired out. So I'm curious what your experience was like. You know, you went with the wife. So was there a lot of people? Was there a lot of people in the theater?
No. So I would say at most there was anywhere between maybe like 10 and 15 people in the theater. Majority of them were young women, believe it or not, between the ages of, I'd say, probably like 18 and 25. There were a few of the quote unquote blue hairs that were in there. I'm sure you guys can guess what kind of demographic I'm speaking about when I say blue hair. But at the end of the film, well, first of all, throughout the film, the only noise that was really made in the movie theater was me, because I was just grumbling nonstop. But
what did you grumble? Did you say like something, or were you just like or were you just like making sounds?
I was just murmuring, kind of just under my breath, just like, this is such stupid shit. Like, like
was it a big theater room that you were in, or was it one of those smaller ones?
We have it's a pretty decent sized theater. They have really nice like reclinable chairs, leather chairs. It's really, really like it's top notch movie theater. Great seating capacity. There was maybe like I said, anywhere between 10 and 15 people there. Similar experience at the end, like you were saying, nobody clapped, nobody was going hoo-ha. Everybody just kind of seemed depressed, except for like the 3 or 4 blue hairs that were sitting behind us. And I think they frowned at me when I said this was dog shit.
Oh.
And I was not not quiet about it either.
Okay,
but,
all right, that makes sense then. Okay,
yeah. But I think everybody else other than them, and including myself, thought, "Wow, this was a bad movie," because nobody seemed like happy when they left. They all were just kind of like, "Meh, this was 2 hours we're never getting back."
So this was just simply a ploy to keep the rights and everything. So was there was there nothing else riding on this? Like, was there like, oh, we're going to make more animated films, or we're going to make more Lord of the Rings movies? Obviously we have, The Hunt for Gollum in 2026.
Gollum's coming out. Yep. But the only reason this was even released and it was rushed was because they needed to retain the movie rights. That's it. That's the only reason they did it.
So does that mean that Amazon only can make shows? They cannot make movies or anything?
Amazon has the TV rights.
Yeah.
Embracer Group has like all the gaming and a few other things.
Okay.
And then Warner has the movie rights.
All right, that makes sense. So I got a question. Does Warner Brothers have? So I know Amazon does not have. Only has the rights to do stuff based on The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Is it the same with Warner? Like they don't have
Yes.
they cannot do anything with the Unfinished Tales or the Silmarillion or anything else in the Legendarium,
Correct.
basically.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody
Correct.
does anybody have those rights or no?
No, that's reserved strictly for the Tolkien estate. Now,
Okay.
the one thing that Amazon kind of sort of has over Warner is that they're working directly with the Tolkien estate, which means they can ask for permission to use certain elements from things like the Silmarillion or
Like
the Unfinished
Morgoth
Tales.
and yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, they would already have Morgoth because Morgoth is mentioned in the appendix of Lord of the Rings. But
Oh, that's true. That's true.
but I, like certain for instance, like the dragon helm, which is an item of the First Age, it appears in Rings of Power. It shouldn't, but it does. The axe of Tur, who is Elrond's, what would it be, grandfather? Yeah, grandfather. That shows up in Rings of Power. But the interesting caveat to all these things is that none of these are never named. They're all just kind of shown. You can show the thing, you just can't talk about it.
Or say what it is, basically. Okay.
Yeah, say what it is. Yeah, or mention any of the history behind it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, but that's really the only difference. Other than that, the rights are pretty much the same. Just one's for TV, one's for movies.
Okay. So, did the Amazon did the Amazon ever? So we know that they're making 5 seasons. Now, did they? Okay, I got a question for you. I haven't been following up. Did they announce a 3rd season? Because I remember
No, not yet.
Season 2 came out, and they still haven't announced the 3rd season yet. Even though they say, "Oh, we might."
They still haven't officially. Yeah. Well, what Patrick McKay and JD Payne have said is that they're already working on a script for the 3rd season, but Amazon has not officially renewed the 3rd season as of yet. It's undoubtedly that they're going to. They're not going to. As much of a loss and a detriment as that television show is, it just makes more sense for them just to shovel out the rest of the series rather than cancel it and have to pay the dues back that they would owe for canceling it. So they're going to, but it's going to be, if they don't announce a renewal by, well, within the month of December this year, you might be looking at a 2027 release date or late 2026.
So, so what was it like? Was it just bad, bad ratings, basically? Like nobody watched it.
Yeah, that's the long and short of it. They lost viewership from season 1, which had already lost viewership when it was airing.
Yeah.
So I don't think they've recovered it either. They haven't caught back up to season 1's viewing.
So do you think? So is this? Do you think that do you think a certain Jeff Bezos has kind of put the kibosh on them, doing stuff until he approves or something like that? Because it seems like he's been taking. It seems like, especially with the election and a certain newspaper that he may or may not. He does own. Not to come out and say a particular thing. Do you think he's doing something similar with Rings of Power? Because
what I think is going on is it's the budget. They're looking at their numbers and how much they're spending on this thing. And I did some research because even though Amazon is a giant corporation, Amazon Studios specifically, the people that are making these television shows, they are only allocated a certain amount of money per year for a budget. Now, they have spent roughly anywhere between 3 and 5% of their yearly budget on Rings of Power alone. So they're probably looking at that and saying, and a lot of people are going to think 3 and 5%. That doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot. Well, when your budget is $19 billion a year, that's a lot of money.
And you got a lot of shows.
And you got a lot of shows, and you have 5% of your budget going to this one show that nobody gives a damn about. Yes. And it's like, but you are contractually obligated to finish the show. So what do you do? Well, what's going to happen probably is is that they're going to cut down significantly on the budget, which is going to make the show look a hell of a lot worse. I wouldn't doubt that they even cut down. They do a Game of Thrones and they cut down on the amount of episodes per season, like going from because right now they're doing 8 episodes per season, and I think they'd probably cut it down to 6. I think that's what they'll do.
I was thinking the same thing too.
Yeah, 6 episodes per season and significantly decrease production budget and advertising budget, and just
honestly, they should probably put it down to 2 because they only have what? I mean, you could say they have 0 hours of real story, but they could easily put 2 hours, make it like a movie, just 2 hours, 2 episodes, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that. Again, like I said, that they're under contract for 5. So they're going to ride it, until the end. But when they're already talking about spin-off shows, instead of they're only 2 seasons in and they're talking about spin-off shows, I really feel like it's gotten to the point where they're like, we just really want to be done with this and move on to something else. Since we have the rights to the IP anyway, can we just please move on and just work on something else Tolkien related that isn't this trash? Bring in a whole new team, this, that, and the other.
What would they do? Okay, have they ever said what they would do after Rings of Power?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Has Amazon ever said what they plan to do after Rings of Power?
No. They've just simply made the vague statement of that they want to do spin-offs. Now, there are fears within the Tolkien community that they want to adapt Beren and Luthien. And God, man, I will lose my mind if they do that. But again, they don't have the rights to it. So I'm wondering if that's some sort of deal that might be going on with Simon Tolkien. But for anyone listening, take that with a couple metric tons of salt. It's just a fear that the Tolkien fans have. There's nothing really, there's no validity to any kind of claim or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also been talk about rumors circulating that they want to redo the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but in a TV format. So there's that. But will
this day and age,
actually?
I would have a very bad feeling about that.
Yeah, but in this day and age, I could absolutely see it happening too.
They're out of ideas. They're out of ideas. Hollywood's out of ideas. They can't. There's no justification for anything they do anymore.
Right. No, and I mean it when I say it. I want all of the adaptations to end. If you're going to adapt Tolkien, right? Here's what you do. Okay, get a gaming studio that makes RPGs, and you make an open world RPG, a la Skyrim or Oblivion, something Elder Scrolls like, and you create an entirely separate story, separate from Lord of the Rings, everything like that, just something that takes place in Middle Earth, okay? And just have it be its own little thing. If you want to expand on the lore, you can do it that way. Just make sure that whatever you do doesn't break with how the world works or how the canonical characters work in that world. Make an open world RPG that people can love, release a ton of DLC for it, make it be a giant cash cow for you, make the game good, obviously, but stop enough of the TV and the movie adaptations. It's enough is enough. They clearly cannot do it well. They can't even do it mediocre. Like, it's just, they really need to stop because it's getting old.
It's getting old, and people, they're just burning money at this point. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I actually like the idea. I like the video game. I like that idea, and I'm a big fan of especially Morrowind and Oblivion. I like Skyrim too.
Yeah, I think Morrowind had the best villain.
Dagothur. Did you see
Dagothur?
Dagothur talks to Joe Rogan. You ever see those?
Oh, I saw like a thumbnail for it. I haven't actually watched them yet, but I definitely will. I'll check it out.
I first took notice of it. So remember when Tucker Carlson talked to Vladimir, had that interview with Vladimir Putin. So they took that interview, and they put in, instead of Putin, they put in Dagothr, and Dagothr goes into the history. You know how, remember, Putin talks about the history of, like, the Ukraine area and all that, and why, and the history between Russia and Ukraine and all that. Well, Dagothr talks about the history of Morrowind, basically in the same way. And it's so funny. It's so awesome. And then there was something similar. Joe Rogan was talking. They did something where Joe Rogan's talking to Dagothr. Yeah, great villain. So all hail the Nerevarine or whatever you call it. So yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but
so,
I think that would be the best course of action, I think, for any quote unquote adaptation of Tolkien's work moving forward. Other than that, like the only thing that I'll really promote as adaptation, using that word, is people's artwork of events that happen in the books, and I do that all the time anyway. And music that is written.
Part of the appeal of Lord of the Rings, especially the Jackson films, I loved the artwork of Alan Lee and was it John Howe? And they actually brought them, and they brought I didn't even notice, but they brought them back for War of the Rohirrim. I don't know how I don't know what capacity, maybe just to draw, or just like redraw Orthanc and all the familiar stuff, the Medicel, Edoras, all Helm's Deep, maybe, I don't know. But I love the artwork of Tolkien. Like that's some of the best stuff. So the stuff that you post is really, really good. Like I'm just like, no wonder why you have the engagement that you do.
Yeah, well, the artist, and I don't know if she's still doing art anymore. I don't know if she's on a hiatus or what, but the artist is called Yidon Wan. And for the one thing I will say is, like, with everybody is different who appreciates Tolkien art. Like, I feel like it's whatever closest resembles what you imagined when you read the books. I think that's what people really gravitate towards. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was her artwork. For me, she landed Tolkien's aesthetic perfectly. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, Miss Martin Muses is in the chat. Hello.
Yep, Miss Martin Muses. Yep. Another, yeah. She made a video about it, but she didn't see the movie. So I would have, yeah. So like a lot of people have talked about it, but you're the only person that actually saw it. So that's why I was probably gonna invite other people on, but no one else has seen the movie. So that's why it's just you and me, because no one else has seen it.
John Boy is asking, who is that? I'm assuming he's talking about the artist I was referring to. Her name is Yidon Wan. YidanYuan. She does a lot of Tolkien work, Tolkien artwork. Really, really, really good stuff.
Did I spell right? YIDANYUAN.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really good stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it is.
I can just, if I'm allowed to screen share here real quick.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Actually, I have a file for that where I have her artwork and a whole bunch of other Tolkien artwork. Let's see. Go to my Tolkien folder.
By the way, I'm assuming everybody here follows Feanor on X. He is your handle is at Lost History 9, right? Yeah, at Lost History 9. Definitely, and also if you be so kind, be so nice, follow my handle. I am at Nerdporeal. Very, very simple. It's not the Nerdporeal life form. It's just at Nerdporeal, and that's it. And you will be notified of Chillporeals like this. This is not the first time, Feanor. This is not our first ball game, right? Haven't we been on stream together before?
Oh, we've been together quite a few times on stream.
Yeah,
there's the artwork, by the way, if it's showing up on screen.
The Silmaril. Yeah, this is So, yes, I've seen this. This is so good. Look at that. Look how
it's so good.
That's Morgoth. Look at that.
No, that's Sauron.
Oh, that's Sauron.
War of the Last Alliance.
And
in the front is Gil-galad.
Oh man, which means Morgoth would be like, isn't Morgoth like the size of like Godzilla or something?
So the estimates are around 30 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. And how big is Sauron? Like 10 feet? Like a Goliath size, basically?
10 to 12, yeah.
Yeah. So our friend Nathan has a question. He's like, Feanor, isn't she the one that did Arendelle and Glaurung? I forget who Glaurung is.
I think you mean Arendelle and Ancalagon. And no, I don't believe she's the one who did that one. I can't remember who the artist is who did that one. I'm pretty sure I know which image you're talking about. I can't remember. Ancalagon. No, she's not the one who did Arendelle and Ancalagon. I'm pretty sure. The one that she did do is
Oh, this Arendelle. Okay, now I remember.
this is the one that they are referring to. I'll share it on screen. I'm pretty sure. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see here.
We got a 99-cent sticker from Miss Mara Muses. Thank you so much.
Is this the one that you all were referring to?
Holy crap! Oh yeah, I remember you showing me this one. Holy crap!
Yeah, boy.
and that's is that supposed to be the ship that Arendelle's on, right to the left, right there? That little,
Yeah.
That one little
Right here.
ship. Holy crap! How do you slay something that big? That's crazy.
Magic.
like magic, like beam. I'm assuming the ship has has phasers from Star Trek. Just we come in peace, shoot to
Something.
kill.
Given the speed of that ship, hell, he probably could have flown right through him. It's never specified in the Silmarillion how exactly he killed Ancalagon, but he did it.
Mm-hmm.
I love there's a small meme that went around for a while, like 10, 12 years ago, about how it was just a giant laser from a Silmaril.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you slay it with a ship and a Silmaril. Yeah, exactly. Proton torpedoes. This ain't Star Wars.
Star Trek, actually. So here's something here's some contention right here. You did some
Oh, here we
tweets.
go.
Okay, you did some tweets about, what was it, Aragorn versus, you said who is this Gunnar character in Star Trek? And I'm like, so I never heard that word before, Gunnar. And now my buddy, I don't know if
I said goober. I didn't say goober. I said goober.
Okay, goober. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll take your word for it. I've been hearing the word Gunnar a lot lately because of something that our buddy Dred Roberts pointed out that he got dunked on quite a bit, but we'll talk about that later. So goober. What's a goober? What does that mean?
Just a goober, silly person.
So Lieutenant Worf, Star Trek Next Generation, is a silly person. Okay, fair.
When compared to Aragorn, yes.
Maybe. Well, Aragorn's not a king. He does become minister. He does become minister for the Klingon Empire, but that's not important right now. Okay, all right, fine. So yeah, he might. With that bat left, the bat left is a terrible weapon. So yeah, he probably would lose to Aragorn. Damn it.
Well, you
did bring up the Q continuum versus what Eru.
What I did.
God.
No. I didn't do against Eru. That would have been overkill.
True.
There is a Maya by the name of Arian. She is the steward of the sun. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I want to see what would happen if the entire Star Trek universe, like if there was like a cross universe, like wormhole or something like that, where like the entire universe just attacked Aya, the universe of Tolkien, right? And I was like, oh wow, they wouldn't get very far. Because you have this lady whose weapon is literally the sun, and she can just cook everything.
Wait, so she can materialize the sun out of thin air, basically? And like
she can use the sun as a weapon. There's another Maya that is on that is following her. Killian, I believe his name is, if I recall correctly. He's the steward of the moon. Mm-hmm. And if he ever gets too close, the moon gets seared because of the heat that is emanating from the sun because of Arian. Mm-hmm. And I did like a whole bunch of, I went down the rabbit hole with that one because whenever I get into like those really like nerdy topics, like in like getting into specs and things, I was like, okay, I know who this character is, I know what she does, but let's really get into the nitty gritty of like what would happen in her abilities, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, long story short, it was like everything in Star Trek would be like vaporized.
Dude, you wooed me.
And I picked the board cube.
You wooed me, dude. You're probably not wrong, though, but you wooed me.
I picked the board. I even was like, okay, including the board cube, including everything, because I was reading up on the board cube. I had to get at least some knowledge on Star Trek, so I was reading up on like the most powerful ships and everything like that. And every single kind of like, because I use AI a little bit to kind of like test drive different theories from different AIs and everything, and also comparing, going onto like versus battle forums and doing research there, and obviously having my knowledge of Tolkien already. And it was, what it said was the adaptability of the board cube would not be able to compete with the searing heat and damage caused by Arian and the sun, and the board cube would likely get incinerated.
I'm wondering if there's a way they can adapt. Probably not.
Well, it's a matter of having the time to adapt is the biggest issue there.
Yeah, true.
I mean, if
the Borg cannot adapt to species 8472 from Voyager, there's no way they're going to adapt to that, probably.
It was literally, I put, and I was like, man, I don't really even have to include Arendelle or Tillian in this. I can just use Arian. And it was the same way with like, I'd have to do it against Star Wars at some point because I think that'd be really interesting. Maybe Marvel.
So Arendelle's one little ship can just wipe out the Enterprise, basically.
Easily. His ship is so durable. He flew through timeless voids. He has a Silmaril. Don't forget that.
What if the Enterprise? Maybe the Enterprise gets their own version of Silmaril instead of dilithium. They find this ultimate powers. Okay, never mind. I'm not going down there. I'll take the L. The L.
One of these days, we'll just have to sit down and just do like a live stream, just chat it up type deal where we're just talking about this kind of stuff because I find it super interesting.
Oh my god!
If nothing else.
My gosh, you're gonna put you're gonna capitalize the nerd and nerdporeal. Like I don't even think I've ever
like I just love talking about it because like obviously I know my stuff more or less. Obviously I make mistakes every once in a while when it comes to Tolkien's work, like I'll forget something or something like that. But I always love learning other stuff too, other IPs, other mythoses, if you will. So it's just interesting for me. I like to learn. So and it's fun just to kind of have these fun little debates like, oh, what would happen if Gandalf faced off against I don't know, the Horde or something, Halo, like like just weird things like that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, have you ever seen like the death matches? Like there was you ever see like the death matches of characters from different franchises and they put them together on YouTube videos. So I think the one that
go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Well, I was just saying the one that I remember watching, and the one that I probably got I laughed out loud was Boba Fett versus Samus from Metroid. Basically two bounty hunters. Samus wiped the floor with Boba Fett easily. So, and I was just like, how do they do that? Like they must have to like really deep dive into what the characters are capable of, basically.
Well, the one thing I kind of have against those guys is that they kind of have a hate boner for anime.
Oh, okay.
If you watch a lot of their stuff where anime characters are involved, typically the anime characters lose.
Oh, really? So there's a bias. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, there's a bias there, and a lot of times the anime character should not lose. So
yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you've heard the Goku. Have you ever heard the Goku versus Superman argument?
Oh yeah, many times. I that's probably the number one like versus matchup of all time as far as like fan bases talking about it.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, if it's New 52 Superman, Superman's hosed. If it's the Superman who like just casually, what was it he did? He shoot, I wish I was more of a comic book expert. He essentially was like the tow truck for like several planets. He just flew a bunch of planets around casually, and it's like, okay, well, that dude would probably be Goku.
Really?
Yeah, Goku in his current iteration wins now. It's not even close. He breaks time dimensions and a whole bunch of.
I mean, if you've seen Dragon Ball Super, like yeah, like what? It's one thing.
Yeah.
One thing is like one thing I love about Dragon Ball, and I was rewatching the very first 2 episodes of the original Dragon Ball show. I like how like God is like here, but then when they get there, you find out God's actually here. But when they get there, then God's actually here, then here, and it just keeps the firmament gets higher and higher and higher and higher to the point where there's a multiverse and there's multiple universes and there's this ultimate being, and the being takes the form of a little kid, and if you bore him or get him pissed off, he will wipe the entire universe out, and everybody's terrified. One thing I love about Dragon Ball is that when you're dealing with a superpowered character, everybody is scared shitless, and it's so funny. It's some of the funniest things. Like if you ever seen Battle of the Gods, Dragon Ball Battle of the Gods, that's more where they introduced the purple cat dude, god of destruction dude, Beerus. And the entire movie was basically Vegeta, Prince Vegeta, Prince of the Saiyans, Vegeta, Kakarot, we're gonna fight again. That Vegeta is shitting his pants the entire movie. And everybody's trying to mess with this guy. He's telling them not to do it. That was like, it's stuff like that that just makes it so funny and so awesome and so great. It's so just so good to watch. But let's see what you got. Okay, but yeah. So final thoughts on War of the Rohirrim that we barely talked about because the movie itself was just meh. You hated it. It was meh for me.
I hated it. It was a layup that should have been so easy, and they completely missed the mark, seemingly intentionally missed the mark. And it was all done so they could keep a hold of the rights, so they can cash in and destroy the IP even more.
if they decided somehow, they somehow decided to greenlight another animated project in Tolkien's world, what do you think they would adapt? Do you think they would try to adapt Beren and Luthien? Do you think they'd try to adapt something else?
I think not Beren and Luthien again, because they don't have the rights to that. There's a few other things within the appendix they could do. They could do the Kinstrife. They could do Balin's company in Moria. That whole story.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They could
true.
do that.
That's another thing that was missing. That was another thing that was missing from the movies was the whole, why did Balin go silent? Why did Balin and his Moria, why did they go radio silent all of a sudden? Which was a mystery. And that was such a good one. That was such a good mystery. That's the reason why the dwarves showed up at Rivendell wasn't because they were summoned to talk about the ring.
Yeah.
No. So yeah.
Well, and the other one that I was thinking too is anime. Honestly, again, I don't. For whoever's the Fall of Arthedain, that would be good. Kinstrife.
I don't know anything about the fall. I don't know anything about this. What is the Fall of Arthedain? Really quick.
What I was gonna say is I work too much. My brain is fuzzy.
Don't worry.
A lot of it.
Don't worry. I get brain farts all the time. I forget words, dude. I forget words half the time. I'm like,
dude.
Words in the back of my mind. I'm like freaking Radagast. Like, I'm trying to get the word out. So yeah.
But
my tongue.
But there's also the Angmar Wars between Witch King and Arnor. That's another thing they could do. Honestly, anime, again, I do not trust anybody to do this stuff. I don't trust any of these creators in Hollywood to do any of this stuff. But anime might be a good medium to revisit The Hobbit.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that.
You know,
I think if you're gonna like, you know, I feel bad for the fans of Wheel of Time that they're getting this like not it's literally a non adaptation. But if they were to get something that I feel would fall in line with what Robert Jordan wrote and the books and the storylines, I think anime would be the place to go. And I've seen some of the character designs because Wheel of Time, they released Wheel of Time in Japan, obviously. And I've seen some of the artwork. They drew character designs for their covers, and I think based on what they drew, I think looks pretty good. I think they could do it, but the thing is, I mean, who knows if that'll ever happen because of Amazon. Man, Amazon Studios, Jennifer Salke, she needs to find a man and just not work.
yeah.
Not work, basically. She needs to
Right.
Like I'm gonna quote George Kennedy from the Eiger Sanction. That's a Clint Eastwood movie from the 70s. He says to a woman says like some very leftist progressive stuff like, oh, how does this affect women? And he's like, George Kennedy's like, lady, go find yourself a man, get yourself screwed. That's it. And that's my message to Jennifer Salke. But I don't know. I don't know if she's married. So if she is, I don't know. I don't even know why.
Poor guy.
I don't even know why I brought this up, but it's just that bad. It's so bad. Sorry.
Yeah. A whole bunch of angry feminists now control our entertainment. Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. Yeah. The boards, all the writers are, yeah. Man. Yeah. I mean, the reason why, I mean, one of the famous writers of original Star Trek was DC Fontana, Dorothy Fontana. But the reason why she wrote the way she did was because she reported to men, basically. So there was still that masculine quality that Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock exuded on that original show, and we're not really getting that with live entertainment now. And I'm just really fed up with that. I mean, this stuff was written for boys, basically. Lord of the Rings. I mean, women can enjoy it too, but it's a masculine story, basically. With some feminine, with a few feminine qualities, but I mean, Wheel of Time has more of the feminine stuff, has more of the matriarchal stuff. But you know, that was Robert Jordan doing something different, obviously. But I don't even know where I'm going with this. Just, dude, War of the Rohirrim could have been better. And Christopher Lee, they apparently they got permission to use Christopher Lee.
It wasn't AI. At first, I thought it was AI. It wasn't AI. No. What they did was they took audio from his previous iterations as Saruman and just spliced it together. Yeah, it was The Hobbit, I'm pretty sure. Hobbit and maybe a little bit of Lord of the Rings, but
yeah, we'll have to do Feanor. You and I will have to do another lore stream. I really want to. I mean, I'm watching the movie. I'm curious. I want to know more about the history of Orthanc, and I don't want to just read the stupid wiki like a dipshit, like most dipshits online, know-it-all dipshits online do. Right. I just want to, I want to have a conversation and kind of, read from the source and everything, or have a conversation with you in the future. But yeah, so
I'm down for it.
Yeah, dude. Man, this was a great stream. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all you guys who are new here. Definitely consider hitting the subscribe button. If you haven't followed me on X, I'm at Nerdporeal. Definitely follow me there. I don't post like Feanor does. But I do sometimes. I'll respond to people, or I will post live streams like this. I've been meaning to do video content again. I haven't done video content in a while. I'm known for doing retrospectives. I'm not a Lord of the Rings channel. I'm basically nerd channel. I cover stuff that I like. So I've a lot of my history was with Star Trek. I've covered a little bit of Star Wars. I am not interested in what Star Wars is now, but original trilogy I still love. Big Nintendo guy. I've played Mario and Zelda. I mean, my gateway into fantasy was Zelda, and then of course I played other fantasy later. But Lord of the Rings kind of really cemented me with the fantasy, literary fantasy aspect of it, and then the movies, and that's pretty much it. So, but that's what I cover. So I cover video game movie retrospectives. I just haven't done one because there are a lot of work to do. But the ones I'm most proud of, I did a couple of Zelda retrospectives, one for Link to the Past, the Super Nintendo one, and I did one for Ocarina of Time. And Ocarina of Time one is the one that really got me interested in Lord of the Rings, because that came out in '98, and then my church, my church was, no one in my family knew what Lord of the Rings was, or The Hobbit, or Tolkien. It was people in my church that told us about Tolkien and those books, and that's how I got into it. That's how I got into it, and I started reading it, and then I started reading more stuff, and then I stopped reading for a while. Then I got back into fantasy about 10 years ago now because of another show called Game of Thrones. And I know Feanor, I know you like to dunk on Martin, and I'll be honest, Martin deserves to be dunked on. I still like those books. That's what really got me back into
That's
reading.
fair. That's fair.
So
right.
Yeah. So, but that's just me. So, but yeah, that's my channel in a nutshell. So I hope you guys definitely check out stuff. I'm going to be doing a Wheel of Time book club again for book 7, The Crown of Swords, in the new year, 2025. So that's going to be coming up. I have Chillporeals planned for the next 3 weeks. So I definitely hope you guys will hit the subscribe button and definitely check out stuff. It's going to be a blast. So, Feanor, you got anything you want to promote?
I'm just going to mainly be on Twitter at LostHistory9. I have a whole bunch of friends of mine that are barking at me to create video content, even though I work 6 days a week. So we'll see how that goes. But I do have a special offer that I am hesitant to put on X because I'm afraid it'll get flooded with a bunch of bots. So I'm going to put it out here. If any of you are or know someone who likes to do anime art, I am offering $150 for a commission for a new avatar for yours truly. And what I'm going to do, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but I want to see a series of like just different options or just like rough drafts of something before I pick one. So if you guys know anybody, send them my way, send them into my DMs. My DMs are open, and get that ball rolling. Because as much as I love my current PFP, I think it's past due for an upgrade. So definitely doing that, and I'm offering. I want to have actual artists working on it and actual artists to reciprocate, or not reciprocate, but to get value from it as well. To actually earn something. So that offer is out there, in case anybody's interested.
Cool, man. And I know one thing that we have to do again that we haven't done in a while. So one of the things that Feanor has said, that if he was to run an adaptation, this was in his first video. I think your YouTube channel's still up, right? You still have your videos up, right?
Yeah.
You would have designed it based off of the Wuxia films. And so Feanor,
Wuxia Chinese.
So Feanor here introduced me to a whole new genre of film, basically. And it's still in the fantasy genre, but it's got elements of history, and it takes place usually I think in China, right? It's mainly China.
China.
So yeah, we have to watch another Wuxia film. So I've seen Hero. Hero's still the best.
Yep.
Watched that. I saw Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I remember that movie was on that movie was everywhere back in the 90s. I remember Oscars and everything. And then we watched was the House of the Flying Daggers, right?
Yeah, House of Flying Daggers. Yep.
Okay, so the 3 films out of many. There's still way more we gotta see. So we definitely have to watch a few more, and then we definitely have to do some more. We definitely have to comment some more on stuff. So the last stream that me, Feanor, and Dre Roberts did, we covered I think House of the Flying Daggers, didn't we? Or was that? Yeah, I think that was
our last stream or last Wuxia stream, because I'm pretty sure our last stream was the first episode of Rings of Power.
No, that was the one that you and me and Dred Roberts did. So I think that was House of the Flying Daggers. So
yeah.
I put. By the way, my previous streams with Feanor are in the description below. So yeah, definitely check those out. The first stream, the earliest one, which has been over a year now. Can't believe it. Can you believe it, Feanor? It's been over a year since we started doing this. It's been a beautiful friendship ever since. So, but yeah,
absolutely,
it's been great. One thing, if you guys ever start your own channels, definitely try to reach out to people and just start to have conversations. And believe me, you failed all the things that you don't try, or you fail when you don't do, basically. So, or I forget how that goes. That's what athletes always say. Or all the steps you don't take, you fail in all the steps you don't take, or something like that. So, but yeah, it's my thing is, my channel is obviously I like to learn stuff and make content, but I also like to talk to different people, and especially with things that are in their wheelhouse. So, for instance, whenever I have Feanor on, we always talk about Lord of the Rings or Wuxia or whatever. So, and same with other people. I have other people. I've had some of the people Dane on the chat. We will usually talk about Star Trek Voyager or Wheel of Time or Man of Manetheren. We talk about Tolkien, or we talk about fantasy or Zelda sometimes. So it varies on the person. So yeah. Oh yeah, Maximus is right. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. There you go. That's what it is. Thanks, buddy. So. So yeah, so Feanor, thanks for being here, and I think this is a great place to conclude it. So I'm going to show again. Once again, I'm going to show the trailer for the movie, and then I'll probably show the intro again.
Don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
Don't go and see it. Save your money, but buy yourself a nice fast food dinner or something. Don't
buy or get the 4K of Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson films. Or buy the book. Get the books.
Yeah.
Here. Oh, here we go. I still have to open this, but get a nice copy of Lord of the Rings without the Amazon promotion. So you see, I got all right. You know what? I'll have to open this. So, but yeah, there you go. So all right, guys, thanks for being here. Definitely check out the replay if you haven't. Definitely check out Chillporeal. I have a whole playlist of that, and we will see you on the next stream. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Have a Merry Christmas. Stay Introductory.
The horn of Helm Hammerhand shall sound in the deep.
War is upon us.
Attack!
This is not a battle we can win.
To whom are you pledged?
Death!
When the songs of this day are sung, we will fan!
The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, rated PG-13, only in theaters December 13th.
People need hope.